Welcome everyone to Astro's Roadshow series, the Association for Short-Term Rental Homeowners. My name is Heidi Henriksen. I'm one of the co-founders at Astrho, and today I'm joined by Melanie Brown at Key Data and Bree Pope at Rent Responsibly. We've got a packed agenda in our Roadshow series today. We are stopping in Lake Tahoe, California. And for those of you joining us for the first time, we are going to do a quick intro about Astrho. We do this Roadshow series monthly, so we always stop in a local short-term rental marketplace and deep dive into that area. We're also going to talk about some data and analytics thanks to Key Data, as well as there's been a lot of rumblings happening in the Tahoe area with permitting processes, legislation changes. So we're going to spend plenty of time with Bree at Rent Responsibly talking about all of those issues. But we're also a quick 30-minute segment, just so everyone knows to plan ahead. We'll leave plenty of time for questions at the end. And with that, we'll jump right into who is Astrho and why did we create it? So back in 2020, a team of industry veterans launched our association, our nonprofit. And we found that the industry was very fragmented, and we had a goal to provide an unbiased, safe, and legal platform and resources for those short-term rental homeowners and for their guests as well, and vendors. So really a connection point between all of those different outlets. We found that roughly 60–70% of short-term rental hosts are self-managing on a global scale. And there were few to little resources available to those individuals to help guide them with best practices, with education, connecting them to other hosts, and of course, to other vendors in the industry with great products and solutions. So with that, we launched Astrho. Astro.org is our website where we have weekly content, lots of articles and helpful resources, our full business directory showing our corporate members as well as other vendors in the industry, any of those that offer a great solution for short-term rental hosts. And then of course, our member perks and benefits are in there as well. So we do have a lot of great member perk and benefits. You'd have to join as an Astrho member, which you can do for free, in fact. And that would take you over to our membership platform. It's a very robust platform created to be a very simple user experience. It's great to find different topics of conversation by drilling into the different details. All of our upcoming events, all of our courses, of course, can be accessed in the community as well. And the great thing about it is you can also connect with other short-term rental hosts on a geography scale, so those in your local area. So there's top posts happening daily, lots of great content, so feel free to join. And we also do 6 total courses each year. They're taught twice per year. We've actually added a new course this year. So all of our courses are available to members, an abridged version for our free members. And then for our premier hosts, that is a full access course. They build on each other, they're taught by industry experts, and the content is regularly updated to today's technology. So definitely a very worthwhile endeavor to hop into. And with that, we'll jump right into Key Data and some analytics happening in Lake Tahoe. And thank you so much, Melanie, for joining us today.
Thank you, Heidi, for having me. So Key Data provides analytics and data about what's happening in the short-term rental industry to anybody who's interested in it. So we work with a lot of destinations, a lot of professional managers, and anybody else who needs some data. We plug in directly to professional managers' reservation systems. So for those companies, and then we also do scrape Airbnb and VRBO to get a super holistic look at everything that's happening in the market and to make sure we're capturing those super important hosts in every area as well. So Heidi, we can go to the next slide. So I'm Melanie, I'm the Director of Data and Analytics at Key Data. I spend a lot of time looking into trends in different markets and doing short little presentations like this. So happy to be able to share some of what we're seeing today. We'll start just looking at our adjusted paid occupancy rate. All these graphs are kind of going to look the same. The adjusted paid occupancy rate is the number of guest nights out of nights available to be rented. So we take away owner stays and maintenance holds to get a better look at actual inventory. And all of these charts, 2019 to 2020 is the gray line, 2020-21 is orange, and 21 to 22 is that blue line. All of these are reservations on the books as of just a couple of days ago when I pulled the data so we can see how things are pacing moving forward. And so we've looked at the prior 6 months for Lake Tahoe and then going forward the next 6 months as well. What we really saw Let's go back to that, Heidi. What we really saw in the Lake Tahoe area was this huge increase in off-season occupancy during the fall last year. That really didn't, so that's why that orange line is so high, especially in November, where occupancy was 38% compared to 23% this year and 17% the prior year. We did see some of that off-season demand peter out a little bit this year, but winter bookings have stayed strong and we're still above 2019 levels. Pacing for the next 6 months, we're right on track with the prior 2 years, which is pretty good at this point. So excited to see that. So definitely still some shifts in occupancy happening, shifts in our average daily rate, which is the average rent paid per night for all guest reservations. Again, same kind of chart. This year is that blue line. It's been a lot higher than the previous 2 years for the last couple months. So December, the average nightly rate was $626 compared to $419 the year before and $471 2 years ago. Pacing throughout the next 6 months, it's projected to stay pretty high. So you'll see April, it's about $50 higher than the previous year, about $70 higher in July. And so this is similar to what we're seeing in other destinations as well, just really large, so up to 20-25% increases in rates over the previous couple of years. Something worth noting is that occupancy rate is not up that high for the next 6 months. And so we do need to be careful that we're not pricing people out of being able to afford to come stay. So those rates need to match the pickup in occupancy as well. And finally, if you put those two together, excuse me, that is not what I was prepared to talk about. We have our average booking window, which is the number of days between a guest making a reservation and arriving, which is super helpful for knowing when to adjust your rates and how far in advance to plan ahead and expect people to start booking. So again, same format here. 2021, our booking windows were a lot shorter through the fall and winter. So you can see how that orange line is a little lower. People were waiting substantially longer. So we're about 37 versus 61 days. So people were maybe a little hesitant to book their reservations really far out, and that booking window dropped. This year, though, it's been actually a little higher than in 2019, which hopefully provides some more time to plan ahead, but can still be hard when these things shift from year to year. Moving forward, it looks like the booking window may stay a little bit higher. Of course, it won't stay at 145 days for the next few months or 162 days. Those will continue to drop as new reservations come in for arrivals in the spring and summer. So that's a really important indicator to keep track of as well. Our average stay length in the Lake Tahoe region, which does include the entire region, so that would include like South Lake Tahoe, North Lake Tahoe, all the ski versus lake areas as well. Our average stay length continues to hover between 4 and 6 days. This winter was just a little bit higher than 2019 and just under 2020. Again, no huge shakeups there. Pacing for the next 6 months, stay length should remain about what you're used to seeing. So that those average stays around 4 to 5 days.
Awesome, thanks, Melanie. We did have a question come through asking, are there specific markets where you're seeing a more significant rate increase like ski or mountain?
Yeah, it really depends. I'm sorry, I've only looked at Lake Tahoe as a whole right now. I haven't broken out like South Lake Tahoe versus, the West Shore and North Shores. In general, we're seeing those luxury markets with a lot of houses see higher rate increases. It does really depend on whether it's a house or a condo and the size of the home as well. So obviously helpful to see kind of overall market and regional trends, but we always encourage people like find the data for your specific neighborhood within that and for the types of units you own or host as well.
Okay. Super helpful.
Yeah.
And so if anybody wants to do a more deep dive into their local market, obviously they can join Key Data. Can you speak to that real quick?
Yeah, so we have a great suite of products. We're about to roll out a brand new host dashboard, which will be really helpful to just kind of get a quick overview of what's happening in the market without a deep dive. We also do work with a lot of smaller hosts as well, like 5 or fewer properties. They can sign up for our full Pro Data dashboard, get lots of insights into what's happening in their market, and see your portfolio performance year over year, and then drill down into individual properties performance as well. So there's lots of good information on our website at keydata-dashboard.com. We have a blog with some good information. And then any other specific questions or requests, you can reach out to me, and my email's at the bottom of the screen as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Melanie. Really appreciate all that great info.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up, we've got Bree Pope at Rent Responsibly, and we're going to jump into a little bit of all the fun changes happening at Lake Tahoe lately.
Yes, lots of fun changes. I actually liked that I'm going behind Melanie and all of that data that was being shown, because when you look at those graphs in Lake Tahoe, you're like, all right, occupancy is up, average daily rate is up. And what we fail to realize, and how Rent Responsibly integrates into the conversation, is that also creates a conversation about too many guests, how the neighbors are responding to all of this stuff. So while the data is really promising and looks amazing, we're going to dig into kind of the other side of that coin today. And that's really what Rent Responsibly does. So for those who don't know me, my name's Bree. I'm the head of community programs with Rent Responsibly. So I have the privilege of working with alliances and associations like Astrho, and really kind of being the conduit to access to advocacy, education, and anything involving creating a short-term rental alliance. There are a ton of conversations happening across the country about short-term rentals and neighborhoods, and it's everything from grassroots to hoteliers and everything in between. And that's really dictating the narrative for short-term rentals. So we help provide resources that help people on the ground advocate for short-term rentals and the future of short-term rentals in their location. And we're just kind of here as the cheerleaders and the ones that can help provide those resources. So in doing all of this research about Lake Tahoe, and you can go to the next slide, Heidi, I wanted to break it out because obviously Lake Tahoe is massive and it's split between two counties on the California side. But what I really want to focus on today is Placer County and the regulation update, which is happening in real time. This area is not an area where we have an alliance, where we are helping anyone who has started an alliance. So this was a lot of a learning curve on my end, just kind of keeping up with everything that's been going on just in the last couple of weeks. So for those on the call who want a little bit more of an update as what this new ordinance is going to happen, the new ordinance is going to take place March 11th of 2022. A new adoption of the short-term rental ordinance was adopted February 8th. So normally that happens about 30 days after the new adoption of that ordinance. So that is one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle that's happening and still continuing to happen is the vacation rental moratorium. That is in effect until March 31st. So the new ordinance is going to be taking place. They're going to give everyone kind of a grace period to adopt the new regulations that ordinance entails. And then also we're going to come out of that moratorium March 31st of 2022. So what does that mean? Effective March 31st of 2022, Lake Tahoe will be capping short-term rentals at 3,900 properties. We normally don't like to see caps but we also know that this conversation about short-term rentals in Lake Tahoe has been happening probably since I've been in the vacation rental industry. It's been about 4 years now, and I know that this has kind of been a grassroots effort with neighbors who are unhappy about party homes, noise, parking, trash. There's so many things that are kind of dictating this conversation in Lake Tahoe, mostly starting from the neighborhood quality, but then we're now going into this narrative of workforce housing and limited workforce housing. So how can we help you all get ahead of all of this? Well, some things to note are renewals of permits are due 90 days from March 31st. So if you are on the call and you have to renew your property, I would do it now. But March 31st, after that time, you have 90 days to renew your permit. So make sure that you have that marked down, because that is what will help you be exempt from any type of ramifications for not renewing. Any short-term rental permits that were filed 24 hours prior to the first adoption of the moratorium, which I believe was in July, and then there was a secondary moratorium in August, you also will be exempt from all of this, because the city right now is actively reviewing permits that they're kind of in a backlog situation. So right now the moratorium is kind of helping them get up to speed with everything. But with the adoption of this new ordinance, there are going to be some things that you as an operator need to be aware of. So I want to dig into that in the next slide, Heidi. Perfect. Okay, so this is just at a glance, and I put a little asterisk on this slide because this is a meaty ordinance and there are a lot of things that you need to be aware of. So what I wanted to do was pull out the things that maybe you're not doing right now, maybe you need to start preparing for. The entire ordinance is on placer.ca.gov/str. You can find out the timeline of everything that is expected of you as an operator. But these are the things kind of like the quick and dirty of what you need to know about this new ordinance that was just adopted. You need a local contact person available 60 minutes, available after 60 minutes when a complaint has been filed. So if there is noise, anything going on at your property, that local person needs to be able to respond within 60 minutes of that complaint. You also obviously have to have designated parking spaces. A lot of this is normal for an ordinance and what we've seen. Obviously quiet hours, 9 p.m. from 8 a.m. There's noise limits that are posted, no amplified noise. These are all things that we really suggest you dig into when you do read that ordinance. Obviously, bear boxes, animal-proof trash receptacles need to be maintained weekly. The other bullet that I really want to highlight is this Good Neighbor flyer. This Good Neighbor flyer must be visible to guests. There is many bullet points that this flyer requires, such as your registration number, all the rules posted about the ordinance, about noise, anything like that. I would suggest that you go into the Placer County document here that, well, actually it's on the next slide, but we can stay on this one for a second. Exterior postings, registration number and address visible from the road and street. That's also something that needs to happen. You have an occupancy limit of 12 guests, and there's also fire and life requirements. And I see what constitutes a local contact person. How close do they have to be to my property? I believe that is referenced in the document. So if you go to the next slide, Heidi. So Rent Responsibly loves QR codes. We're all about QR codes. So if you are on this event and you have your phone, I would just pull up your camera on your phone and scan this QR code right here. This also has the URL that will get you to where you need to go, but this QR code gets you actually to the FAQ sheet, which has all of the documentation about what a local contact person, constitutes and how far away they have to be. I don't know that off the top of my head, but I do know that the verbiage is very robust in the ordinance, and you can always reach out to short-term rental at placer.ca.gov, and they should be able to kind of reference what that means for you. All of these adoptions are happening March 11th. So you have a little bit of time to kind of get your ducks in a row, make sure that you're compliant on all of these fronts. And really that QR code is going to get you to kind of like the checklist of things that need to happen before that new ordinance comes into play. On top of that, the reason that we were doing kind of a deep dive into Lake Tahoe and North Lake Tahoe in general is because currently there is no short-term rental alliance in Lake Tahoe. There are a bunch of people who are advocating for fair regulation and fair ordinances, but with all of the stuff that's coming out of North Lake Tahoe, you do have an opportunity to join a very, very bare bones, just creating the foundation type of alliance. And I've added the email right here. We have some property managers who number one, need help to create an alliance so everyone can get involved and come together and say, look, we're separating ourselves from the bad apples. We know that this has been a problem. This alliance is really going to help forward a positive viewpoint and positive narrative about short-term rentals in Lake Tahoe. So this is the email address that's referenced here, nltpropertymanagers@gmail.com. They wanted me to let you know that they are in their infancy, so you can get in on the ground level, and they really need help. So I think right now, if I were to give any advice based on what we see at Rent Responsibly on a daily basis, is operators and property managers really need to come together as a whole to kind of combat this narrative that's been going on in Lake Tahoe about short-term rentals for a very long time. And the only way that you can do that is recruit, educate, and really build community there that can help kind of get everyone on the same page about short-term rentals. So if you are on the call and you have a desire to network and create a better fabric for short-term rentals in the future, please email nltpropertymanagers@gmail.com. I can also drop it in the chat. So that is everything that's going on in North Lake Tahoe. I know it's a lot, and I wanted to make sure I spent a little bit more time on it. So if we go to the next slide, I also just did a quick update on what's going on in Dorado County as well.
Sure. I just real quick, Bree, wanted to point out that you don't necessarily need to be a property manager to join this new initiative, right? This is open to even just a single property homeowner host to get involved. So
absolutely. Some of our alliances, we work with alliances all across the country. Some of our best alliances are property managers and operators together as like a leadership crew, because they both bring a unique kind of style and vision to what their alliance is going to look like. And the operators can advocate for the operators, and the property managers obviously have that kind of professional knowledge of what's going on from like a large scale viewpoint. These two viewpoints together make some of the best leadership boards I have ever seen. And I would really recommend, and sometimes that's where people seem to get stuck. It's, oh, the property managers versus the operators. That's not how advocacy works. This ordinance affects everyone. So it's important to bring all of the short-term rental operators together, if anything, for education, and to make sure that you all are really kind of absorbing everything that's coming out, which is a lot. And it's a lot to read and it's a lot to learn about. But if you can position yourself in a way that can get you into a leadership position, then you can interface with the city, then you can interface with the people who are making the decisions. You all live and breathe short-term rentals all day, every day. So you are the best type of person to come in and say, hey, this is what we would recommend. This is what we think is going to work. It's really a grassroots effort at the beginning, but once it gets legs, you can really start seeing the fruits of your labor. Advocacy always happens at the 25th hour. That's what we always say. But if there's people willing to stand up and raise their hand and say, hey, I want to help, then that's half the battle most of the time. So definitely email nltpropertymanagers@gmail.com. Even if you're not a property manager, we really encourage anyone to get involved in North Lake Tahoe just because of everything that's going on.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. All right. So Dorado County, I didn't do too much of a deep dive because of what was going on in Placer. It is happening in real time. Dorado adopted a lot of this stuff a while ago, a couple years ago. But again, they have a lot of the same type of restrictions and requirements. The interesting thing about that is their local contact needs to pass a certification to even be a local contact to respond to any type of ordinance violation. So that person needs to be available within 30 minutes of a complaint, and they have to pass the certification. So if you're in Dorado County, which is the South Lake Tahoe area, make sure that you are aware of that. Their cap is at 900. They also have fire and life safety restrictions, as they should. I mean, that is a non-negotiable. Quiet hours are 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. Also exterior sign requirements on this one, and of course, noise and parking violations as well. So if you scan this QR code and you are in the South Lake Tahoe, Dorado County, this will get you to their FAQ section, which outlines all of the things that are required of you as a short-term rental operator. So that's about it. I think we have one more slide. And if you're like, what is Rent Responsibly? This is the first time I've ever heard of them. Scan our QR code. I told you we love QR codes, but this will get you to our resource library. This has everything from how to make public testimony to how to create an ordinance, how to be a good neighbor. We have so many resources dedicated to just advocacy in general. And I think that it's overdue in Lake Tahoe. And I think it's a really good time to start something up. If this gets legs and we have an email and a Facebook group, we will put you on our alliance directory on the Rent Responsibly website. Sometimes that's all you need, is to just make sure that anyone who's looking for any type of advocacy or alliance can get to where they need to go. So we kind of help streamline that process. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Feel free to reach out to Rent Responsibly. We'll get you to where you need to go.
Well, and you've witnessed firsthand, Bree, how the start of one of these alliances has had a tremendous impact in, I think, some Colorado markets and elsewhere.
Yeah, we have about 3 alliances in Colorado because Colorado's on fire right now, is what everybody has been saying. We have alliances in alliance in Oahu. We have an alliance in Santa Fe, New Mexico. The Santa Fe, New Mexico alliance was the one that really went from an ordinance, being involved in that conversation and kind of helped dictating what that ordinance was going to look like on the other side. They didn't get everything they wanted because we always have to reframe what a win looks like, but they didn't exist before, we assisted in kind of helping build. And then we got the right people in the right seats there, and they just stood up, raised their hand, and all of a sudden, a couple of weeks ago, they were hosting an event for all of the other alliance members about how to renew and register for their short-term rental, because they had developed such a relationship with the city, and they wanted the city to see that they were dedicated in educating responsible short-term rentals, not the people who aren't registered, not the people who are renting out their home and not paying attention and not kind of, ensuring that they're vetting their guests, which I know happens a lot in Lake Tahoe. I know of many parties that have happened in Lake Tahoe, just from friends. And now I'm on the other side of that. And I'm like, guys, are you being good neighbors? So I know that it's a problem in Lake Tahoe, but really, advocacy starts just with someone standing up and raising their hand, and it really can make a difference.
And it's so amazing, because you might think as one person or one single host, what could I possibly do? But that's where it begins, exactly what you're saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you don't have to know it all either. I mean, you just willing to learn more is where a lot of this started. You don't have to have it all figured out. That's what we're here for. We're just here to kind of help filter that, be a sounding board, and make sure that that you're not alone in this, and also make sure that any issues that you're having or any fears or reservations you're having are completely normal. It really is kind of a group effort, and that starts with a person. That's all we really need.
Yep, definitely. We did have a question pop up, another one about what constitutes a local contact person, I think going back to your original.
Yeah, that I believe is referenced in the actual ordinance,
Okay.
but I don't know for sure what they're constituting as a local contact. The city would kind of know better about what the local contact. We've seen kind of like city limits on other ordinances that we've reviewed. I don't know for Lake Tahoe what they're constituting as a local contact though, but those QR codes that I referenced should be able to get you that answer.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, amazingly super helpful information. There is definitely a lot going on there, but thank you for doing the legwork, Bree, trying to get this foundation started for everything. And if any other questions do pop up, you can get to Bree and Melanie in our membership community. This recording will be available to watch on our YouTube channel, of course, as well. So thank you again, everyone. We're right at time. Appreciate you visiting us today, and we'll see you next month at our roadshow stop in Coachella Valley. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day.